Okay. So we just started the event. People are coming in. Welcome everybody as you're coming in. I think it said we were expecting about 23 people. So we'll give it a minute. I'm gonna make sure people are going in the right channel too.
It looks like people are coming and going.
Yeah. If anybody's having issues, you can post in the stage chat.
Yep, certainly.
Let us know what's going on. We're still thinking. Maybe we've got who we're gonna have for now. So welcome everybody to our chat with Rick and David. They're gonna be showing us how to roll a character. Woo! We are recording this meeting so that people who can't make it can watch it later. And if you they're gonna demo some stuff and then we're gonna open up, talk more about the oh my gosh, what is it called? The content, the creators.
The community content program for ElfQuest, the Scroll of Color.
So when we get to the point where we open up for questions, there's a way to raise your hand. Just raise your hand, or type in the chat. If you want to just not share your voice or your screen, you can just type in the chat and we'll answer your question there. Or you can share your voice or your video when you raise your hand, and we can talk to you that way too. So I'm gonna let the guys get started, and I'm very excited because I have no idea how to roll a character.
Thanks, Damson.
Right.
Yeah, appreciate you emceeing here and helping with questions and stuff. I too really have only played around casually with trying to roll up a character, and so that's sort of was part of the genesis for this. Is I thought it would be kind of fun for Rick, who is obviously knows all the ins and outs of how to do this. We could sort of do like a kind of like a real life scenario with Rick kind of walking me through how to roll up a character from scratch, and hopefully in doing so you guys will pick up some tips and tricks and get a little bit more familiar with it, and so that is what we're going to do today. Rick, I know you have a couple things you wanted to start with before I share my screen with the blank character sheet.
Yeah, I actually want to use this opportunity to kind of crowdsource an opinion, if I could, because in the ElfQuest books, it uses I'm talking the RPG books, it uses a very generic term called the Game Master. And that doesn't strike me as particularly ElfQuest oriented. Now, if we wanted to, we could refer to the person running the game as like the Forest Master or some other...
The pack leader. I don't know. We could have some fun with that. I agree. Game Master doesn't quite have an ElfQuest vibe.
It doesn't add any atmosphere to it all. Howlkeeper? Yeah. Because, for example, in Call of Cthulhu, which, by the way, it's another Chaosium game that basically uses the same rules, at least the heart of the rules, called basic role-playing. They're called Keeper of our, secret lore, Keeper of arcane secrets. And so they're usually referred to just as keepers. So, and we try to tweak them all a little bit for each of our role-playing games, if they want to be tweaked. So.
I love this idea. Why don't we we can brainstorm, Rick, and why don't we think about maybe I can do some kind of poll. We can come up with maybe if folks want to send some suggestions, you can send them directly to me either here or on any of the other social media platforms, or my email address, which is david@elfquest.com, and we'll collect some suggestions for what the game master might want to be called for the ElfQuest world, and then maybe we could do a poll and crowdsource it. I think that's really fun.
Sure, and we'll use that term in the new edition of the game.
Love it.
Giving credit to whoever, if we feel one person is the person who came up with it, then yeah, we'll give them credit for that in the new edition of the game.
All right, love it. I'm already seeing some great suggestions in the chat. All right,
And of course, if you're from a Dungeons and Dragons background or a Pathfinder background, they often refer to it as the Dungeon Master. But ElfQuest really isn't about dungeons so much. So
no.
I
All right,
suppose we're
awesome.
doing, and I don't think if we were playing Sea Elves, I would be called the Wave Master because that's probably a trademark term. But
Yeah, yeah. I think it should be something that could apply no matter what kind of group of elves you're playing. So
yeah. And of course, any group can feel free to pick their own name. So if you're all playing Wolf Riders and you want to be the Howl Keeper, that's up to your gaming table. You don't have to
yeah,
use the one that's in the rule books. It's just a suggestion. It's just to make clear the person's role in the game, which is they're the one that is usually referring to the rules the most. They're the ones who are deciding what the player characters are going up against. And so I'll use the Forest Master for today. I will be working with player character Thornbreak to roll up Thornbreak as a character. And so, the one thing I wanted to point out, one of the reasons I have my camera on, is that one of the handouts all the backers already have are these reference sheets. They got these on
hey Rick, let
Backerkit.
me interrupt you for 1 second because you're frozen on my screen. We're not seeing what you're holding up. Is Rick frozen for everyone else?
I both frozen.
Oh, it looks like we're both frozen,
Well,
but
you
not.
want to turn your camera off for a second and see if that changes anything, David?
Okay. You're still frozen.
You were not frozen on mine, and I'm not frozen on mine. But one of the handouts we have.
You're both. It's fine on the recording, so it's probably on your end, David.
Okay. All right. Womp womp.
Okay, but for your benefit, David, I'm holding up the reference sheets, one of the PDF handouts already available to all the backers of the Kickstarter as one of the digital downloads on Backerkit, and it has this really nice summary of the basics of rolling up a Wolf Rider in particular. But in the full rule book, which just holding up here, the Elf book, although we have the new color cover on the edition we put out. In the Elf book, it takes you through a Wolf Rider example, but I wanted to point out that in the very, very back of the book, one of the last sections that's available are for other tribes and such, where it's got for the go-backs and desert elves and sea elves, or the wave dancer, the wave dancers and so on. It's got other sun folk, other tribes and other folk. It's got their own specific character creation, which you should refer to instead of using the Wolf Riders. But we'll get to that in just a moment, because if you want to share your character sheet, Thornbreak, we can start going through rolling up your character.
All right. Okay. So now it's not letting me share my screen again.
I'll turn off my camera just in case.
Yeah, I think. There we go. Okay. So.
See, our Discord skill is reaching double digits now. I think we're at least 10%. So we're probably doing an experience check on that, but we'll talk about
goodness, that. Yeah. So can you guys all see my screen now?
With at least the top part of the character sheet and that lovely color art on it.
Okay. So maybe
if you want to zoom in a little, David, it probably wouldn't hurt.
Zoom in. Okay. All right. So
we're going to be focusing on the very top, and this is the easiest information to fill in overall. We're going to start with the player name, and so you notice that's different than the character name. So the player name, you can just put David or whatever you want down for. I'm one field up talking about above that, so you can put David, or you can put your whole name or whatever you want in there.
Yep.
And then the character name.
I think it might be good, just for people who maybe are not as familiar with Acrobat. I have this open up in Acrobat, which I believe is free. And so
Acrobat Reader is free.
Yeah, and so if you look over here, this is the little toolbar. If you just saw a second ago, I was over here on the comment thing, and I was clicking over here, and I was trying to add a comment, which I didn't want to do. So I had to just go back here and click into the select tool, and now I can click into these editable fields that we all have in our Backerkit download, and that we can all use. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
case
The
anybody.
only thing you've done is you've added your piece of art in the art section. And that can be a little bit tricky, and that really depends on what tool you're using, what application to update this form fillable PDF. And so
Yeah,
you were
and
using Acrobat, which makes updating the pictures, but there are a lot of free PDF editors out there as well. I know
right.
there's one called PDF Expert, and I don't think that one costs any money at all, but there are a number of these. If you do, you do a Google search for free PDF, creator, editor, you will find a plethora of choices.
So this is what I did, just so everybody knows how I got in here. I went into and I opened this, and then I clicked it, and then I resized it right here in Acrobat, so that it fit within the little space. And I will note too that you will notice that there are not the hit locations on this version. The Chaosium basic role playing character sheets have something called hit locations, but we don't have to use them because they tend to be considered maybe one of the more complicated aspects. So right now, we're just going to demo using rolling up a character without those hit locations. But if there's time, we can look at that later too.
I mean,
So
one
that's
one of the things the gaming group will want to discuss before they start playing is whether they want to have a more storytelling Combat-Lite game, or whether they would like a really gritty combat-oriented game. And both are great playing styles. It all depends on what your group likes. And so what David and I are going to take you through today is starting with the Combat-Lite version, because it's a lot easier to get the rules under your belt and get used to the game and how the basics work without having so much of a mathematics exercise. I mean, once you know how combat works, it's not difficult. But for first time, especially if you're brand new to role-playing games, I would strongly suggest you try the Combat-Lite storytelling version first, and then try the combat heavier version at some point along the way. And it's not like let's say you have a whole campaign you're going to run for a year. It's not like you couldn't switch midstream. If like after a few weeks you're like, oh man, combat was kind of really light and I really want to get into it in more detail, it's very easy to add the combat back in later on. You can add it in anytime you want along the way. It's not like you're making some long-term commitment to the rules and how you're going to use the character sheet.
So I have filled in my character's name, soul name. I just put TBD because quite honestly, I don't know what Thornbreak's soul name is. And if I did, I wouldn't share it with all of you. So you'd have to recognize me to figure it out. So yeah, I put in the elf, species, in this game, you can be an elf, you can be a human, you can be a troll. In theory, you could be a preserver. A
It's up to
male.
the gaming group and what the Forest Master really wants to run, because the Forest Master, they're the ones that create the adventures, usually in conjunction a little bit at a high level. You want to keep the players entertained and interested. So if the Forest Master, the Game Master, wants to run a troll thing and none of the players are into trolls, it may not work out so well. So, but it's usually a very easy agreement to get with the gaming group.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, I think Thornbreak is probably, let's give him, again, I've never really thought about his age. So,
well, actually, this is where I'm not trying to tell any gaming group this is how they have to do it, but there's a choice that during character creation that the group will want to decide is how much do you want to roll up using the dice, or how much do you just want to pick something that you'd like to be like. Like if you, David, if you have a certain age you really want to play, you want to be an ancient elf that's seen it all. That's fine. Other groups, they want to roll it and get surprised by it, because age is one of the things that you can pick or you can roll. And so it's called the age factor table. That's what really counts. It's whether you want to be a really young elf, kind of a youthful elf, an adult, an elder, or an ancient elf, because elves can obviously be thousands of years old.
And this is a really good point I'm glad you brought up, is that obviously I have this character that that I've already thought of, and we're using him to sort of build a character sheet, but you can roll up a character completely from scratch. And let me hop over and share a different character sheet. This is a character that I just played on Friday night in our very first full-blown game here on Discord. Dustin Cooper was our forest master, game master. He sort of rolled up a bunch of pre-gen characters without names or anything like that, just the stats and their age and everything. And I came up with the art, and I had a fellow fan color it. Iflit, I think, is her name here on Discord. But yeah, so you could go this other route where you just let the dice roll and come up with the characteristics and then build a character that way, and then you can flesh them out and add the story and background to that character based on what the dice roll. Or you can do what we're doing here. Like, I know that Thornbreak, because he's got face fur, is at least 500 years old, right? Because he's a wolf rider.
Okay. Well, that means you're an elder elf. So elder elf is fine. So if you want to put age of 500, 600, and it doesn't have to be a super concrete number.
Sure.
But,
so wait, let me ask a question here, Rick. So if I wanted to roll that, how would I do it?
Well, the reference table has 5 categories of age, from child, youth, adult, elder, ancient. And the simplest way would be to roll the percentile dice, which are either D10s or D20s. One die represents the tens, the other die represents the single digits. And because there's 5 main choices, I would just do it in 20% increments, because it's 1 to 100. So if you roll 1 to 20, you're a child. You roll 21 to 40, you're a youth. And then the next category is adult. The next is elder. And then the top, 81 to 100 would be, ancient. And so I've got dice on the table. You'll hear them roll. There's also a lot of, if you're playing on Zoom and things like that, they have tools already in there where you can type in a command on the chat line, and it roll /D20, and it would roll it for you, or roll /D100. But me, I'm rolling, and I rolled 65, so that would make you an adult between 100 and 400 years old.
Okay, got it. Now, I think you can do that rolling in right here in Discord as well. I'm pretty sure we can. But
somebody just tried it right in the chat, and
brilliant.
So, yep.
And Rick, one other thing before that I think is important, that's sort of a basics thing, is again that percentile dice. So can you just how, if you had physical dice, you would roll the percentile dice with the tens and the ones, and how you do that for folks that are not familiar?
I don't have the exact dice, but if basically in the dice set that's going to be in the box set, so anybody who gets the physical box set is going to have these dice. There is a 10-sided die, which clearly has 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 00 on it. So there's no doubt what that die is for. It's for the tens. And then there's another 10-sided die that just says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so you really can't confuse the two. Exactly like in the chat, somebody put a picture of that. Thank you very much. I had the physical dice. I was tempted to turn my camera on, but the picture very much shows you that the picture shows a roll of 100.
Okay, great. I'm not looking at it because if I switch over from my character sheet, it's going to switch the share screen.
It's just opening the chat, but yeah, it's no problem. No problem at all. And so if we want you to be 600, that's fine. You're an elder. The biggest impact that has comes to your skills. And that means you're going to have bonus points, because ancient beings, old beings have had a long time, a particular set of skills acquired over a long period of time. And so you are going to have higher percentages for a lot of your skills. You're going to get a ×5 bonus. And I'll when we actually go to skills, I'll talk about that more. But it's all this bonus experience. It's called previous experience, is based on your age. And once again, there's a table that shows what the bonus is, and there are examples in the book in character creation that show you how it all gets worked out. But we'll show it live up here. I just want to go through the other fields at the top of the screen. David picked that his species is an elf. He's a member of the Wolf Riders tribe. He's a male. And, it's up to the players whether they're going to have a life mate or similar And then also, of course, what era you're playing in. So we could be playing in the classic quest era, Stargazer's Hunt. There are a variety of eras, totally up to the group and the Forest Master, what era they want to play in.
Yeah, and so we'll just say pre-original quest for purposes here, and obviously, yeah, that's going to depend on the game that you're playing, and you'll know that going into it. And so, um, but this is also something new that we've added to the 40th anniversary edition of the game because that was not on the original character sheets. And given that the story universe of ElfQuest has grown so much, we decided, let's add this in because you might want to play during the Shards era, the medieval era. You might want to play during the Stargazer's Hunt era, which is sort of like, kind of industrial revolution times, right? You can even play Future Quest era.
Or
You can
Stone
play
Age, kind of.
exactly, yeah. Like Palace Craft, you can come up with it whatever you want. There's no, it's really up to you as the player and the forest master who's running the game to come up with what that is. But it will help you just sort of do things like, okay, if we're playing in the pre-original Quest era, there aren't going to be guns, for example, like there are in later eras in ElfQuest, that kind of thing. So.
Yep. The one thing though is that the current game that the backers are going to be getting, they already got it as PDFs. It's all geared toward the original quest. And so things would have to be tweaked a little bit if you wanted to work, especially in future eras with higher technology. The one thing you might want to look at if you really want to do more tech and all that is Chaosium, and I'm not trying to do a hard sell or a big plug, but we have a basic role-playing generic rule book. It's over 300 pages in size. And the reason it's so big is not because it's trying to be intimidating or anything, but it covers optional things you can use in a game. And one of the sections in that book is about technology, including, sci-fi, spaceships, things like that. There's a whole section on guns and such. So if you're working in an era with, more advanced technology, the basic role-playing rule book has all that in there to pick and choose from.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep.
All right. So what's next, Rick?
Well, now that we've got the top filled in, we're going to work with the characteristics, or what are also known as your stats. If you've played any role-playing games like Pathfinder or D&D, a lot of these are going to look very familiar. Your strength is your physical strength. We just abbreviate it as STR. Your constitution is how physically tough you are, healthy you are. And then we can go through these one at a time, but they're very similar. A lot of them they map almost directly to what you'd see for D&D, or of course any other Chaosium games like RuneQuest uses these, Call of Cthulhu uses these, Pendragon uses these, just as ElfQuest uses them. And so there are two methods here. I mean, most people will roll dice based on the tribe they picked because that does have an impact on it. And this is all on the cheat sheet, so I'm not just remembering this at all. I'm just reading off the paper because every one of Chaosium's games is a little bit different. And so, like for example, Wolf Riders for strength roll 2 die 6, and then they add 2 to that result. And so, I mean, if you are trying to create a specific character from the actual graphic novels, maybe, and that's what we had to do for a number of the, the Audreys and all those other people that we added in. We had to just get a sense of what we thought their strength would be. So if they were doing things in the comics like lifting a big rock, we knew they were fairly strong. Trolls tend to have a high strength, for example. But if you're just creating a character that's totally fictional, you'd probably just want to roll the dice. Unless, and I'll say this is up to the gaming group, some, game masters, the forest masters, I also saw the term scroll master, that's a cool suggestion. They can negotiate with the characters how much leeway, because, some people really want to be a magic user, and that means having a high POW or having a high int. Other people, they want to be more combat oriented or have certain high hunting skills and all that, and then your strength and your dexterity really come into play. And it'd be really disappointing if you say, oh, I really want to play have good magic powers, and then you roll a POW of like 5. That would make it tough to be a really good magic user. And so, but, we can roll the dice, or David, if you have a few that you want to, just kind of, you really want to focus on the type of character you'd like to be, just please let me know. Or did we lose David entirely? Or Thornbreak, did you just join the audience and you're not a speaker anymore?
Yeah, I think we did lose him for a second.
We got to add
try
him
to get
back
him
as a
back up
speaker.
here. Yeah, he should be able to do that himself. But
He's coming back.
Yeah.
Thornbreak is back.
Sorry about that. I was I clicked
lost you.
something. I disconnected myself. So let me share my screen again. All right, can you guys see me?
Well, you are a low technology elf since your pre-original
I really
question.
am, you
Definitely a low
guys.
technology elf.
All
So,
right.
so with strength, it'd be rolling 2d6. I don't know if you have some dice handy, or I can roll for you, or you want to do it in the chat.
Why don't you roll it, and I'll just type it in.
Okay. Your strength is 12.
Okay.
That's above average, but not super strong. I mean, most of the skills are going to range from 3 to 18. And so, 9 is considered average on, the thereabouts. So you're a little bit stronger than average.
All right, well, that actually matches Thornbreak. He's kind of a buff guy, so.
Okay.
And Rick, whenever you're rolling, could you call out which dice you're rolling?
I'm rolling. I had to roll 2d6. Standard dice you get in Monopoly and everything else. I'm sure everybody has d6 in the house. If you have any board games at all, I'm sure you have d6s in the house. And so I was rolling 2d6 and adding 2 to it. Now for Constitution,
okay. If people are like scanning through the video later to say, to just be like, oh, what was that again? If they wanted to follow along, could you just call out the dice whenever you're rolling, or is that going to be too clunky?
I will do that. So I just rolled 2 6-sided dice and added 2. That's what got us to 12 because I rolled a 10 and added 2 to it. And then for Constitution, elves are tough. And so it's rolling 2 6-sided dice, or 2d6 as it's referred, and then adding 6 to it. So I'm rolling the 2 6-sided dice. Wow. Okay, 10. All right, so you have a Constitution of 16. So you're kind of tough as nails.
Love it.
Now, Constitution also affects your hit points. You're going to have higher than average hit points as well. So you can take more damage from arrows, or somebody, it takes a stronger punch to knock you out, those kinds of things. So you're pretty tough. All right. Now, elves tend to be on the smaller size. And so this is where it's one of the few times we're not going to roll the 6-sided dice. But these dice are you can always use 6-sided dice to roll what's known as a die 3. Because elves are small, and so they're going to roll 2 3-sided dice. But you can use 6-sided dice for this. All you got to do is a 1 to 2 is a 1, a 3 to 4 is a 2, and a 5 and a 6 is a 3. So I'm rolling the 2 6-sided dice and just cutting the number in half, basically. So I'm rolling the dice. Ooh, okay. You're a fairly tall guy, as elves go. You rolled the maximum, which is a 6, and you're adding 1. So you're actually a pretty tall elf. You are a 7 in size.
All right, great.
Now,
it actually matches the character again. So
it's fate. And I'm not making this up. I'm just rolling dice here, right? In some ways, I was hoping I could say, oops, it actually shows you as really short. So can you get the artist to change your picture and make you a lot shorter?
The artist is Wendy Peeney, and I probably won't ask her that.
Not a problem. Now, you are still shorter than the average human. Most humans, they just roll 3d6, 3 6-sided dice. And so they tend to be, they get at least a 9. They're at least 9 to 12, somewhere in there. And so you're still shorter than the average human.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, intelligence is just rolling 3 6-sided dice. Unless, once again, do you see Thornbreak as more of a hunter or having magic powers, just as a reality check here?
He's like a hunter. He doesn't have any magic. He's just sort of like your regular old wolf rider.
Okay, then we'll just roll 3d6 and see what happens. Decent, but not that high. I rolled a 5, a 2, and a 2, so that means your intelligence is 9. You are average intelligence, or close to average intelligence.
I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm. Next, we're going to roll power. which this is not a typical stat for non-Chaosium games. Like this stat doesn't really exist if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or things like that. Power in Chaosium games is kind of like your magical power. It allows you to have more points for casting spells and doing magical things. And so elves are pretty magical on average. And so they roll 2 6-sided dice and add 6 to the result. So you're going to get at least a decent result no matter what. The worst thing, of course, as I said, is if you were just rolling like for humans, they just roll 3 6-sided dice. You get a 3 for power. That's a hard character to play. You're very vulnerable to magic, and you won't be able to use much magic at all. But we'll see what we get with rolling 3 6-sided dice for your power. You rolled okay, but not awesome. You got 10 for your power.
Okay.
Now, we got just 2 more to go. We got dexterity. Now, you're a hunter, or you want to be pretty much a hunter. Elves are very, good with their hands, very dexterous, really quick. And so this is a stat where you roll 2 6-sided dice, but we're adding 9 to the result. And once again, these are all off the rule book and the reference sheet. I'm not doing this off the top of my head. I'm just looking at the sheet, and so it's 2 6-sided dice plus 9. Wow. Okay. I rolled an 11, so you have a dex of 20. You are razor quick, and you could definitely catch something thrown to you or anything like that.
Awesome.
Yep. And then lastly, we have appearance, which is your physical appearance. And elves, once again, are fairly attractive. And so I'm going to roll 2 6-sided dice and add 6. Not so good on this one. I rolled 5, but that means your appearance is 5 plus 6, which means you have an 11 appearance.
Right.
Not that great as far as elves go, but that's up to the dice.
I don't know how to take that since the character is actually based on me, but
Now, the one thing that's going to happen, though, is because you are an older elf, some of these stats can be modified based on what we're going to do is called previous experience. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. Because over time, you can get stronger. Just like people work out, that would make them stronger over time. They can do other things like, we'll get to it, but some of these statistics, these rolled characteristics, can change over time. That's why there's the current row of information, and then right below it is original, because these things can change over time.
So I should
for example, they have this. Yeah, you could put the same numbers in there, because let's say during the campaign, you could get a certain thing happen to you. Where someone uses a magic power on you, which makes you uglier. And that could lower your appearance unless you get healed of that magical damage. And then, of course, your appearance would go back up. Also, there are things, I don't know as much ElfQuest lore as probably everybody else in this discussion, but maybe if you think of things in the stories, like, I don't know if there's a fountain of beauty or a river of beauty where if you drink the water, someone gets more beautiful. That could affect your appearance, for example. Or there's a magical potion that somebody made, which would, make you stronger for a while.
Yeah. I can think of one example that immediately springs to mind would be the Broken One, for those of you who are familiar with that character. And he went through a healing process and sort of changed his appearance to be a little more appealing. But actually, Rick, will you just talk for 1 second about how this particular stat plays out in a game? Like, what does what you look like? Yeah, like how would that?
It only affects a few things. It really depends on in gameplay what the characters are doing. There are some skills where it would be a small modifier, but the ones that impact it the most, appearance doesn't come into play that often. Dexterity is really important for hunting and combat and things like that, or even like dodging things. Like if someone throws something at you, you're more likely to dodge it if you're really dexterous. Okay. Intelligence and power are for more magical power related things. But also, intelligence, we're going to fill this in just a moment. It also relates to your experience bonus. Because as you go through the game and you're rolling against your skills or you're rolling your magic powers, if you succeed, you get what's known as an experience check. And then based on your experience bonus, that would give you a higher chance of it, increasing over time. We'll get to that in just a minute. There's a couple things we want to fill in. You've got the cursor right now in damage bonus. Yeah, as in the comments, appearance is used for some social roles too. It's also referred to as charisma in other Chaosium games, but it largely works the same way.
Got it. Okay.
Sometimes your appearance will help you with oratory, for example. You're more convincing to other people because, how could the beautiful elf be wrong, kind of thing. But a lot of it depends on what's going on in the game you're playing.
Okay.
Now, but damage bonus is largely based on your strength and your size. And so once again, this is a table. It's a very simple table on the reference sheets and in the rule book where, if you're really strong and big, you tend to do more damage. So trolls, as you can probably guess, when they pick up some big hammer or big axe or big whatever and hit you with it, they do a lot more potential damage on average. And so elves being smaller, it does tend to make them have either a low damage bonus or just no damage bonus. And so I'm going to look at your strength and your size and add them together. Your strength and size add up 12 plus 7 is 19. And so that is no damage bonus. So you can put just a 0 or none. Some people type it in. And of course, we're using the form fillable character sheet. But if you want to go a little bit more traditional old school, you can easily print these out and you can write on them. If you just want to have them at the game table, maybe everybody doesn't want to have their screen out, you just print out a paper character sheet and then you can just write on it with, pencil, pen, whatever. Now, your experience bonus is based on your intelligence. And so it's your intelligence divided by 2, but you round up because obviously odd numbers are going to give you like 4.5. So your experience bonus, 4.5 is rounded up to 5, which means 5% bonus.
Okay. So that would be like down here when we get to the skills, we would add an additional 5%.
The way it works is when you're doing skill checks, because usually you have a series of adventures and it's up to the, scroll master, forest master, game master, dungeon master, for them to decide when they want to see if your skills went up. Sometimes they'll do it at the end of just a single gaming session. Sometimes they'll do it at the end of a couple of them. It all depends on how often the game master wants you to do it. But let's say in the first couple of adventures, Thornbreak succeeds on their animal lore. They're like, what animal is that, Thornbreak? You roll your animal lore. Oh, yes, I know that's a go back. Even though it's a long way away, I can see that it's a go back. You did your animal lore skill. And of course, these skills are all described in the rule book as to what basically they cover. Like climbing is a really simple one. Most people get what climbing is. There's a big craggy rock face, Thornbreak. Let's say you have a 75% climb skill and you succeed at your climbing skill. Or if it was a really, really difficult climb, it may be half your climbing skill you have to do it. And let's say you succeed at that. That little checkbox after the percentage is when you're due an experience check. And so you just put a check in there. That way, later on, you could then... Is it not letting you check in there?
Oh, yeah. No, sorry.
Okay, I was sorry. I saw you moving it. I just didn't see the check appear. And I was like, I hope I didn't screw that up.
Nope.
Now, I am getting a question in the thread about how come survival is not listed as a skill. Sometimes it's just, when you say survival, that's kind of a vague word. So it doesn't have. But here's the thing. There's no way every single applicable skill could be on there. And I'll give you an example. One of the elves is a very good midwife. And so they have a midwifery skill, which can be typed down at the bottom. And so if there's a skill that you really feel this character needs, you could list it at the very end. But, why survival is not listed as a skill in general, I wasn't there in 1983 and 1984 when they were designing the game. I was in high school, but I certainly wasn't working for Chaosium back then, although I was playing Chaosium's games. But why they chose not to have a survival skill, I can't really tell you. But if it makes sense and everybody understands what it's used for, you know, the game master could say, "Oh, yeah, we should have survival as a skill." That's fine. People will then get, a percentage in it. And a lot of times what happens is a player will try to do something and they can say, "Oh, there's a stream. I want to jump over it." The game master could say, "Well, it's a pretty wide stream, and so whatever your jump skill is, you gotta roll under half of it." Or if it was a really, really difficult thing, maybe even a tenth of your skill. It all depends on, it's up to the game master to decide these type of things. And there is some advice in the rule book on what is a difficult thing versus an extremely difficult thing. But the thing is, you don't roll skills for just everything. Okay? Like, for example, you could have, like in Call of Cthulhu, there's a drive skill for driving cars. And if it's just average, everyday driving, you don't have to roll against your driving skill. That'd be kind of silly because, like, let's say you have a 75% driving skill. That's for when things get tough, not for when it's just average driving. Because, if you had a 25% chance of crashing every time you drive, nobody would drive. Okay.
I know some drivers like that.
Well, I'm sure there are some. They probably actually have a 10% driving skill. So that's, but yes, these are not for just like, oh, I just want to jump up and down. You have to roll against your jump skill, and then you could, it's for difficult things, or like like I said, there's an unknown plant, and you're not sure what it is. The game masters described it. You don't know what it is. But it's not like, some very basic things. Like most of us we know what a pine tree is, or we know what dandelions are. We don't have to roll our plant lore to know what those things are. But if it's some odd berry that nobody's ever seen before, the game master could say, "Oh, roll against your plant lore." Now, of course, right now all these skills are blank. And so if you could remove the experience check, and unless you really like it there, David, it hasn't come into play yet. But this is based on tribe or your, group. So wave dancers, sunfolk, go-backs, old ones, they all have different lists of their initial skills and what you get. And so this is a list that I'm looking at for wolf riders. It's right on the reference sheets and it's in the rule book. But the first one is animal lore. And so it says strength plus dex times 2. And so strength and dex add 32 times 2, so your animal lore is 64. 64%.
Okay, so we're going to go right into the skills now versus these things.
Yes. Now, because movement rate, dex strike rank, size strike rank, base strike rank, those are all come into play. I mean, the elves have a movement rate of 4. So if you want to put your movement rate of 4 in there, that's fine. Movement rate, it comes into play in a number of circumstances, especially if you're trying to outrun something. But the strike ranks, we don't have time to really get into the nitty-gritty of it today. That's for the combat-heavy version of the game, because that's who gets to use their sword first, or who gets to shoot an arrow first. It's a very granular thing for combat. But if you're just going to play a Combat-Lite game, you don't really need to know these things.
Got it. Well, and that's the perfect answer, because that's what we're doing here, is doing the Combat-Lite version. But I just wanted to make sure we address them for folks, as we're going down the sheet here. So we'll skip over those things and go.
We can skip over them for now. You could always fill them in if you need to later. If you decide, okay, this combat, we want more gritty, heavy-duty combat, you can always go back, fill those things in, and then have fun with, seeing whether your left arm gets cut off or things like that. But most people want to keep combat a little bit more lighter than that.
Sure.
There is a the quick sheet. You mean the reference sheets? I know that it should be available as a Backerkit download. I'll double check after this, but it should be in the Backerkit downloads as one of the downloads. I can double check. I know the rule book definitely has it all, and we definitely have the rule book as a download. But I'll check to make sure that the reference sheets is out there. I just since we only got about 15 minutes officially left, and I'm happy to run over a little bit. I'll double check, and if it's not there, that's on me, my bad. But I can get it uploaded really quickly because it's definitely done. Okay, the next is the climb skill, And so the climb skill, it is strength plus dex minus your size. So strength and dex is 32 minus your size makes it 25. Now, some of these may sound a bit low to you, but remember that in this case, Thornbreak is a pretty old elf. Thornbreak is going to get bonus points for previous experience, and it'll be his choice which of these he wants up to bump up to what could be a much higher level. He's like, 25%? That's outrageous. You can use a lot of points to bump it up to 75, 85, even 90%, if that's how you want to choose. So don't feel that all these are locked in with really pitiful things.
Okay.
You will get choices to add more points.
Okay.
Communication is intelligence plus appearance. So int plus app makes it an even 20. Dodge is int plus dex times 2. Int plus dex is 29 times 2 makes it 58. Elf lore is int times 3, so that makes it 27. Healing lore is int times 2, or 18. Human lore is int times 2, so that's also 18. And yeah, this will take a few extra minutes beyond the hour, so I'm okay with sticking around. I can easily close this out if any of the mods need to run, but I don't have to have a hard stop at 3 o'clock. I just want to rock and roll.
I can keep going too.
Okay. Okay, jump is strength plus dex times 2. So strength and dex is 32 times 2 is 64. Language lore is int times 2, so that's 18. Manipulation is strength plus dex, so that's 21. Oh, strength plus dex, sorry, 32. Sorry, my bad, 32. Okay, next up is mechanical lore. And remember, this is, there are pre-generated characters if you want to just play one of the existing elves. And you could always just change their name if you just want to be approximated like that elf. You could just say, okay, I want to be like Audrey, but I just want to, change the name so I'm playing somebody else and I'm not Audrey exactly. And that's fine. You can just take the Audrey character sheet, change the name, and off you go.
Yep.
Okay, mechanical lore. This is usually a pretty low one. It's int divided by 2, so yours is 5.
Oh, wait.
Int divided by 2. So it's 9, rounded up, so it's 5. Mineral lore is
the same.
Yep, int divided by 2. If you could read them off to me, David, that way I can look at the sheet and just chime them off quicker. The next one, perception.
Perception. Yep, perception is next.
Int plus pow times 2. So int and pow are 19 times 2 is 38. Plant lore. Int times 2, so that's 18.
Okay, next is ride.
You are a wolf rider, so we have ride. You can put wolf in there. And then ride wolf is dex times 4, so you're 80, even before your experience rolls come in, so 80.
Next, stealth.
Now, stealth is int plus dex minus size. So int 9 plus size is 16. Oh, sorry, int plus dex. Sorry, 29 minus 7 is 22 times 2, so 44 is your stealth.
Next is swim.
Swim is strength plus dex, so that's 32.
Okay, next is throw.
Throw is strength plus dex, so that's also 32.
And lastly
troll is your int, so that's just 9% for troll lore.
Okay. And then
it says
here,
all wolf riders can use sending as a skill percentage. So your sending skill under magic powers. Is there a skill you wanted to add just because you?
I just wanted to point out again on the character sheet, if there is a skill, again, like Shen and midwifery or something that is unique to that character, you can just add it in right there. And I guess you'd have to come up with, or the game master would help you come up with the formula for it. But anyway, just wanted to let you know that was there. So,
other skills can be added. It's just up. one of the things that I'm hoping the community content program, which I do want to talk about briefly, is that if, like, for example, you have a list of other really cool skills you think that certain elves should have or available, you could do a short document of cool skills that ElfQuest characters could add with descriptions of what they cover, like survival, and then you could publish that in the community content program.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yep, extra skills for ElfQuest. There are extras potentially that like, for example, for powers in particular, it does not list all the magic powers available there. There are a couple of dozen of them, but sending is a common one for wolf riders, and so sending is POW times 4. So your base starting sending is 36, and then the other one is wolf bonding.
Wouldn't it be 40?
Int is, I thought it was, did I say power or did I say int? Sorry. Sending is power times 4. You're right, 40. My bad. Looked at the wrong thing. And then wolf bonding is POW times 5. So your wolf bonding, you'd want to add that in, because once again, there are other magic powers in the book. Most of them are not listed on the sheet here, because there are no super common ones. But yeah, wolf bonding is 50%. And are there any others you can think of, Thornbreak, that you in particular?
Yeah, for all elves, they have magic feeling, and the new one we added in was spirit calling. That all elves have the potential to do, but we didn't come up with a formula for it, I don't think. But it would be a pretty low thing because it's hard to do. So
okay, well, how about just POW then? Same for magic feeling. Magic feeling is just your POW. So magic feeling is 10% and spirit calling is 10%.
Right. Now, if I was a plant shaper or a glider or a rock shaper, we would add that all in. And
especially other tribes have a variety of things that they could add. There's, like, if you want to be a healer, you'd probably have healing. It all depends on how you want to, what type of character you want to play. But obviously, if you want to play more of a magic user, that's where you'd want to look at the magic section in the elf book, and you could have some more for starting abilities.
Right, and it tells you how to roll those with each of the powers, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. So, what next?
The weapon skills are pretty simple as well. We're just gonna. I would imagine you want to have bow.
Yep.
And so the weapon you want to use missile is where you'd put bow. Yep. And we'll keep it short and sweet for this one. Your bow skill, it starts out, where is it on here? Attack with 1 missile weapon, strength plus dex times 2. So strength plus dex is going to be 32 times 2, so 64 is your bow. And then the same thing for melee weapon. If you wanted to, you could pick dagger.
Hang on.
All right, that's the A percentage. A percentage is the attack percentage.
Okay, what was it? 64. 64. Okay.
And then your other weapon, most people either would use a short sword or a dagger.
Yeah, we're going to give him a dagger. He's got a dagger.
Yeah, and your dagger is the same at 64. It's the strength plus dex times 2.
Okay.
And then if you want, you could have up to 1 other weapon, but you can always add these in later. The one thing I would hate to do is say that, this is all you've ever got. And, so if you, at a later time, it just makes sense, or it dawns on you, especially if you're a newer player, that, I would be used to using an axe or a sword or others. There's a standard list of the types of weapons. Each of them they're called weapon categories. If at a later time you wanted to add in an axe or a sword or things like that, that's fine. Because you do get 1 other melee weapon as they're known. But if you don't want to decide it right now, you could always, as the story's revealing itself, say, I want it to be X, and I'll add it in at 64% later. If you want to remember, not have to worry about the number, you could, under the second weapon, just put in 64 and just make it TBD. And just leave it.
So all of these melee weapons would have the same attack percentage?
Yes.
Okay.
For starting. You get to pick 2, and so you don't have to pick it right now.
I'll pick it. We'll give him an axe. Why not?
Okay, one-handed or two-handed?
I got
Doesn't matter. We'll just say axe. And usually they say 1H is the a short abbreviation, which fits a lot better. Just 1H, one-handed. 1H. Yep. Okay. And then you also, parrying with weapons is usually, it's the same percentage to start out with. So your parry, P percentage is 64 for both of those weapons.
All right. And just
but
for
over
folks
time, if you end up parrying a lot, it could go up, different than your attack. Or if some people want to keep it really simple, they just have attack and parry at the same skill and don't worry about it. It's one of the things that's in the rule book where it talks about don't have attack and parry as separate, just have them be the same thing and leave it at that.
Got it. Okay, so that's a simplification that we can do.
It's
so
in the
what
rule
about
book in the box text. Mm-hmm.
What about these other fields for the weapon? So damage is how much?
Well, yeah, we could fill that in later. It's all off of tables in the book. Dagger is D3. It's one 3-sided die plus 2. So you just put D3 or 1D3 plus 2. The one-handed axe is 1D6 plus 2.
So, and again, the point here is that you just put it in here as shorthand, so you don't have to keep referring to the tables in the book. It's right on your character sheet.
Yep.
Got it. All right.
And then the bow, the damage from an arrow for a standard bow. I gotta look at the missile weapons table. The missile weapons, it is 1d6 plus 1.
Now, should I note how many arrows I have?
Up there where it says missiles, most elves that are bow users have 20. They carry a quiver of 20 arrows. It's actually, David, there's a field below equipment just next to the picture.
Over here.
Where it says missiles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the numbers are listed out. And that's where you'd put 20. And that way, over time, as you're using them, you could mark them off as using them up, because you could run out of ammo.
Totally, yeah. So this is what I did, because this is the one thing you can't do on the character sheet, is there's no way to sort of circle something. So I just did, there we go, that. I went over to this little highlight
and then
tool.
If you want to do that with your hit points, if we could scroll up a little bit, keep that highlighter on for the moment. Let's scroll up to above the picture where we can fill in your hit points and we can fill in your magic points. Your magic points are super easy. Your magic points equal your power, so that's 10 for magic points.
Okay.
And your hit points is an average of your constitution and size. Okay, so con plus size divided by 2. So con and size, that would make it 19 divided by 2 is, it's 10.
Okay.
So your hit points are 10 and your magic points are 10. So magic powers, a lot of them require you to use your magic points, and this is kind of your fuel for spells. And so you can run out of fuel and have to take a break, because you'll naturally get magic points back over time. It's kind of, sleep overnight, you get magic points back. You heal over time, or you have a healer cast healing on you. That's how you can get your hit points back. Either through time healing or magic healing. But yeah, if you get hit with an axe, you could lose half your hit points potentially in a single stroke of the axe.
Yep, which is that's what makes these games exciting, because that can happen, right? And it's true to the story, where characters do get wounded and they do get killed, and they do exhaust themselves using their magic, and they can't complete the task. So so that's all great.
And then I don't think we have time to get through it all, but I did want to talk about your age and that extra points you can allocate. Because of your age, being an elder, because you're between 400 and 800 years old, what you would do is you'd want to whip out a little calculator, and then I can quickly add it up in my head to give you a close idea. If you could scroll down to where your skills are.
Okay.
What you would do, and this, as I said, you probably want to have a calculator, you add up all your percentages, 64, 25, and so on. Let's say you had 300 points all in. Okay. What you would then do is you would get to add, and this is where ancient ones really excel. You would take that 300 points, multiply it because of your age times 5, and you get to add another 1,500 points across all
wow.
of these
Okay,
skills.
this is definitely something I didn't understand, so I'm really glad you're explaining it
Yeah,
here.
this is where
That's huge. You're
ancient
right. Yeah.
or elder elves. I mean, children get just they get again their skills, so they still get to have it higher than this. And this is where it's like a point allocation system. You get to decide how you want these to go up. Now, this is a lot of math potentially. That's why I said just use a calculator, because I would have a hard time adding these up in my head and keeping the numbers. If I got distracted for a second, I'd forget where I was and had to start
Yeah,
over
we don't
again.
have to actually do it, but that, with that example, I would have, you said 1,500
Mm-hmm.
points.
Like a lot of people would go over and make their wolf bonding a lot more like 95,
Right.
or spirit calling, make that like 100. But
Right.
if you take a look at the older elves that are on, I can't remember which ones off, like Winnowill and people like
Right.
that are a lot older, like 1,000+ years old.
Yeah.
A lot of their skills are closer to 100%, and some of them exceed 100%.
Okay. So, I mean, if I gave myself 100 and everything, that still wouldn't add up to 1,500 points. I guess it would, because there's more. Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, you basically just then update this to whatever you want it to be. So it would be, I could give myself a 75 in animal lore and so on and so forth until I ran out of those bonus points. Right.
The other thing you can do, and this is, I should point this out, it's not just percentages, is you can increase some of your characteristics, like your strength and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And so it's not just percentages. Okay. Each increased characteristic point, you take their, okay. So like if you wanted to up your strength, it would be, you'd have to take 50 points out of that to up your strength by 1. So if you wanted to say like over time, I want to work that up, let's say from 12 to 14. So change the current to 14, and you would have had to spend 100 points to get there.
Got it. Okay. And this is all in the skills.
It's all in the rule book. It's all available. I'm not just off the top of my head. The character creation section takes you through this step by step. This is, called the previous experience section. And this is where, based on your age, it has a little table there. It tells you how it works. It has an example of it in there. And actually, the example is for an ancient elf of 950 years old, where you'd expect that over time, like, for example, you might want your POW to go up. And so if you wanted your POW to go up from 10 to 15, you could do that, because that's a good power, but 15 is by no means exceptional. If you wanted a 15, you'd have to spend 250 points to do it, David.
Right. Yeah.
And that 1,500 doesn't go quite as far as you think it does.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. I at first I was like, wow, that's a lot. But then as I'm thinking about it, it's not.
Most people want to tweak their stats a little bit. Now, you can't tweak every stat, but it shows in the book which ones you can up.
Right.
If I was a magic user, I would want to up, like a 9 int as a magic user would not cut it. Just trust me in general, because int, it impacts your spells and stuff like that. You'd probably, if you wanted to be a serious magic user, you'd want to put some serious points into int and POW. If you had, you'd probably want to, since you're more of a hunter, you'd want to put some points into strength. Your dex pretty much rocks it, so you don't have to worry about that. The general maximum's closer to 21 for elves, but your dex is fine. But if you think, no, I'm going to get prettier over time, I get, distinguished beard, hair, and all that kind of stuff, you could have your appearance get bumped up.
Right. All right.
But it really, those, for you, it's 50 points for every stat bump.
Right. Yeah. All right. So we are just over 3. So why don't we wrap this? That's a quick overview of how to actually
we got
roll.
through the vast majority of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it would be the same for the Bond Beast, right? You would you go into the Bond Beast section and there's all the calculations, etc.
Like wolf runners have a wolf, and the thing is, it's based on the wolf stats. And so in the creatures section of the elf book, it has, I'm sorry, I meant the world book. In the world book, it's got all the animals, including wolves, wolves that are ridden. And they usually tend to have higher size, higher strength, but it's all in the rule books.
Right. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. But hopefully that was
Just
helpful.
focus on any questions.
Yeah.
But
Why don't
it's
we?
the same basic approach.
Why don't we? Were there any questions that we have not covered? Let's hop into the chat here, which I have not been looking at because I was sharing my screen before.
And we are looking at having a higher Auto-Calc type of thing where we may get to the point of where some of these things are automatically calculated for you. Just for the initial version that with my limited skill, since I'm the one that set up the form fillable character sheet, I wouldn't be surprised at all if in the near future, provided for free, of course. This is not like you would have to pay for it. Chaosium has an awful lot of Auto-Calc sheets out there where if you put in your int, it will automatically calculate and put in your experience bonus. It'll do the int divided by 2, and it'll just auto-populate your experience bonus for you. Same thing for damage bonus and things like that. We have a lot of Auto-Calc sheets that once you type in your stats, things just automatically populate. You don't have to figure it out yourself.
That is awesome.
And do you guys have that already in the works?
We haven't identified the person who's going to do that. So if somebody is good at Auto-Calc type of sheets, please contact rick@chaosium.com and we may put you to work.
Yeah, because I think oh my gosh, Sir Thomas, I forget what your
EQ roll.
is he still in here?
He's
Yeah.
there.
EQ roll Wolf Strider. I know he was doing that, and Dustin also has his own spreadsheet. But I don't know. Yeah, reach out to
Chaosium, and a lot of and this could be paid work. I mean, if you want to volunteer for a discrete small project, even if it's just showing me how to do some of the things, that's fine. But if it's a fair bit of work, Chaosium does pay for these type of things.
And reach out where?
Rick
specifically
at chaosium.com.
Okay, great.
RICK@chaosium.com. That's me.
So that is a good segue into the last thing we want to talk about, and that is just a little update, preview, teaser for kind of where things are with the ElfQuest RPG community content program, which we have dubbed the Scroll of Colors. We mentioned this a couple weeks ago when Rick and I popped on here for another one of these little live streams, and we shared the logo for this ElfQuest community content that Richard created himself, actually. And it's going to be sort of the repository for fan-created content, additional stuff that you want to create for this game, whether it's an additional set of skills and the calculations for how to roll them, or it's a whole adventure scenario. I know some folks are working on some of those already. It could be, additional flora, fauna, and creatures. Really anything goes. So Rick, I'll turn it over to you to sort of let us know where we are with things.
Yeah, no, we're hoping to launch it this fall. It could be as early as next month. I've got to get a few small things in place. Because one of the things we have for each community content program is we offer a template. And that's for laying out the booklet, be it 8 pages, 16 pages, whatever number of pages. It's very good to always use an even number of pages, and even better, a multiple of 4 pages for desktop publishing. But we usually provide a Microsoft Word template with the styles, because that way you can have a similar look and feel. We have this for all of our other community content programs if you want to take a look. We have a certain style template for Pendragon, one for Call of Cthulhu, a different one for RuneQuest, a different one for each of our games. And so we'll have a different one for ElfQuest. The thing that slowed me down a little bit is that the ElfQuest Classic project, I have good templates that I can provide very quickly for those. Those are black and white layouts. Some people want to go more full color, and so I have to create the color templates. And actually, David and I were talking about that just last week, about how, earlier this week, I should say, on Thursday, about how we want to use, forest colors and things like that in the templates. So that way you can just open up the template and start putting in your text and such. But the one thing, would you like to announce it, David, or do you want me to announce it about art?
Oh, I can announce it. So I just dropped the link to the Chaosium community content section in Drive-Through RPG, which is the site that is going to house all of this. So just in case anybody isn't familiar, that's where it is, or where it will be. But the really great news that Rick is alluding to is that we have gotten the thumbs up from Richard Peeney, that if you would like to use existing published ElfQuest art in your community content, you are allowed to do that. If you want to, sort of make minor modifications to it, if you want to take out a word bubble, or maybe crop a panel or something like that, that's totally fine. If you have some black and white art that you want to do a coloring of and include that in your community content, that is totally okay as well. So that's pretty huge, because it will allow you to, kind of have, official ElfQuest art in your content that you're going to be creating. And certainly
Yeah.
we hope that everybody's going to reach out to our fellow fans, many of whom are incredible artists, and hopefully, form partnerships in creating this content, so on and so forth. But we wanted to let you know that that is available to you. So if you want to take a scan from a book or a screenshot, if it's got high res enough or whatever, you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing though, just not just to set expectations, is this is not set up so you can, like, publish whole comic panels in a series of, a small booklet or things like that.
Right.
And also, we do not have electronic versions we can just pull in some library where you can, okay, where's the big directory of all these pieces of art all set for me to just drop in? You're going to have to scan in or screenshot, or however you want to prepare them. We're not going to say, oh, here's 20 different pictures of Audrey, pick which ones you want and put them in your book. You're going to have to, we don't have that.
Yeah. Folks will have to, you're going to be creating this content. So if you are creating a scenario like the one we played on Friday, that Dustin, Dustin, we're going to call on you in a second to ask your question, but Dustin's adventure was about four young wolf riders who had to infiltrate a human village to rescue another member of the tribe. And so, Dustin pulled in some sort of tribal human art that wasn't ElfQuest art, but like this would be if Dustin, you decided to write that up as we talked about and submit it to the community content program, you could take scans of art from ElfQuest to illustrate the actual, the way they look in story. So that would just be one example. So, why don't we do that? Why don't we, because Dustin, you've had your hand up for a while. I'm going to bring you on, invite you to speak here so you can ask your question. And then Thomas has a question as well. So here we go. All right, I just invited you to speak, but there we go. Here you come.
Oh, and yes,
right.
you will need to credit the Peenies, but we'll have all the boilerplate credits and such in there.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah, the credits need to be there. All right, Dustin, you're up.
So I was making a character as you were making a character. Could we just take screenshots of them and post them on the RPG general thing, just to kind of share them with people, or is that
You could share them in Discord, yeah.
okay?
That,
cool.
that was also my question. Because David shared his whole character sheet, and I was like, that's from the book. Are we not supposed to share those?
I didn't even think about that. So.
You can share a picture of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
but not like a PDF that's editable. Okay.
Right. I didn't share the editable PDF. I just did a screenshot of it just to whet people's appetite. So this is a real life example of some of these questions, Rick, that have come up in this group from folks who, we want to play by the rules and we don't want to violate anybody's trademark or whatever. So
sure. I mean, we're going to have some standard things. Like, for example, and this will all be in the community content kind of rules and regulations, where on the cover of your product, you will have to have the Scrolls of Color logo for the community content program. If you ever published your item in the community content program, and let's say you forgot it, we would pause the item for sale until you updated the cover and had that logo on there. It happens with our other programs. No ill intent from anybody, no bad faith from anybody. Somebody just forgot. And so that's why we have community content ambassadors who look for these type of things, and in a polite way will help make sure you're meeting all the standards.
Right. And we're going to be looking for folks who might be interested in helping with that, as we talked about last time too. Having, if anybody's interested in helping that, once this launches, obviously, we got to get it
Yep.
up and running.
Because the cool thing
Oh.
is the community content ambassadors get freebies of all the stuff in that community content program.
Very sweet.
I just want to point out, I just made a new channel called RPG Art, where I think we could use that for people who are saying, oh, I'm looking for a picture of Audrey when blah, blah, blah. Or I have a new character. Can someone color it for me? Or can somebody draw it for me based on the templates? Or
Yep.
I think we'll do it that way.
Yeah, a lot of community content work gets done on various social media, including Discord, where they tend to bunch together. And one of the things I love about our community content programs, and I'm sure it's not unique to Chaosium, so I just can't speak to other companies because I don't have the time to go onto their community content programs that much. We have a wonderful community that helps each other out quite a bit. People who volunteer to proofread, or people who volunteer to, they'll do art at a pretty reasonable rate, or maybe layout. It's not too difficult to find other people who want to help. And usually, a lot of times, like, well, if I can get a free printed copy, that's all I want, for my services. It all depends. It's up to the people involved to figure out how to make it work. But we just have a few standards that the ambassadors help enforce, like no AI art. That's a hard and fast. Well, I'm not here to debate it. I know some people love AI art, but we like employing artists to actually draw the stuff, and so we police our programs in a nice way, very thoroughly. We use AI to sniff out AI art, and so please, no AI art. In the community content programs. You want to use it at your table, you want to use it as a game master or a forest master and so on, that's fine. We're not saying you can't use it for that, but in our community content programs, it's one of the restrictions you sign up for as part of the publishing agreement.
Yep. All right,
So
Dustin, did
would
that answer?
artists who
Go ahead. You go ahead, Damson.
Okay. Would artists who are a part of our community who are okay with like volunteering their services, is it all right to do it through our Discord, or should we have everybody filter through the community content program?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can answer that. I mean, so what we're saying is if you have written, say, some materials that you want to publish, the community content generally is illustrated and it's got cover art and that kind of thing. So the way that it typically works is that the creators, the writers, the artists, you all connect however you connect and figure out how you want it all to work to create the final product that then gets submitted to the community content program. So you don't negotiate and do all that in there. That's for final products.
Drive-Through RPG is a sales website. There's no communication tools on there. All it is set up to do is to sell stuff and pay people for stuff. And so the most common places I've seen discussions in these communities exist, helping each other on social media. The two main ones are on Discord and on Facebook. And that's up to the people who decide where they want to have those discussions. Like I know, for example, very crystal clear that on Facebook, there's a Call of Cthulhu, Miskatonic Repository community content group, which is very active. There's a super active one for RuneQuest. And that's where they tend to gravitate towards, as I said, along with Discord. It really just depends what those individuals like to use, because we have some people who you can name any single social media platform. Some people hate it, some people love it, all in between.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to support anybody who wants to get together here on Discord. They don't have to do it here, but we'll definitely have a place for them to do it here.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just Drive-Through RPG's website or the Chaosium website. It just isn't set up to do any of that. It's all done through social media platforms.
Okay. And just as a final closeout about the question of posting the screenshots of somebody's character sheet, what we did for Dustin's game on Friday was, for his game, he actually had pre-gen PDFs for his players, and we just had them only being posted in his private Game Master channel so that his players could find them there. And I think that's probably how we'll be moving forward.
Yeah, I mean,
for other games too.
to use it's a quaint kind of outdated phrase now, but you'll see it on the actual full-size character sheets. It says, permission to photocopy for personal use. And by that, it really means just copy. And so, I mean, the number one thing that we would not want to see as a company, not to get all commercial on anybody, but somebody selling a pack of character sheets, especially the blank ones, or coming up with a couple of tweaks and then trying to sell that. Because that's basically riffing off of our intellectual property, the Peonies and Chaosiums. But there are very few things like that. It's if you do it through the community content program, it shouldn't be a problem at all. Because like, for example, a lot of scenarios will have pre-generated characters in them that fit the scenario for the best. And in that case, those pre-gen full filled out character sheets are part of the package of what you buy in the community content program.
All right.
Cool.
Dustin, did you have any other questions?
No, that was it. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to move you back to the audience, and we're going to bring Thomas in here.
Just looking through comments, see if there's any other comments.
All right, EQ roll, Wolfstrider, you are up.
Hey, just a super quick question in terms of using existing art from the ElfQuest books. What is their stance on potentially photoshopping something that is in there? So, for example, say you want a picture of Strongbow and he's holding a bow. He's got this cool pose, but he's got a sending box over his head. And you kind of want to Photoshop that out, make it just look like his hair. What's that
Yes, you
stance?
can do that. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that manipulation of the
That's a
original.
great question. And, we had to do that, and we actually paid an artist at via Chaosium to touch up. Like, can you give so-and-so a foot? Because the voice bubble was where their foot was, or where their arm was, or things like that. Draw the rest of their hand, or whatever, just to make it look full versus, with wherever the
void.
Yeah. Like I said, sort of basic manipulation, cropping, removing word bubbles, filling in color, or even recoloring, I think would be fine. I think if you, are taking Wendy's art and creating something totally new and different, that might fudge it a little bit because you're sort of, So anyway, I think.
Yeah, I was just looking for clarity of clearing up the photo. That's literally my thing.
Sure, and then we do have some standards in the community about, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, adult content, and that kind of stuff is not allowed. So if you decide you want to make character X more graphic, no.
Yeah, at least put a bush in the way, kind of like what the pennies do.
We topless, those kind of things. There's community content standards, and that would get your product pulled.
Yep.
Right. And that will all be once the Scroll of Colors goes live on Drive-Thru RPG. Those templates will be there. The boilerplate language, for legal stuff and anything else will all be there.
You have to have this in the credits. You have to acknowledge Warp copyright, Chaosium copyright, original art from Wendy and Richard Peony, etc. All rights reserved. We'll have all that boilerplate text, as we call it, available just to copy and paste into your book. And sometimes we put a lot of that right into the template, so it says.
So it's already in there, yeah.
In that way we know you don't have to worry about forgetting it.
Yeah, put it in the footer.
Yeah, for sure. So,
with those templates, because I saw about Google Docs and all that. Chaosium, we tend to create a Microsoft Word doc and an InDesign doc, and then we very quickly have somebody do an Affinity Pages template, just because that's a much lower cost graphic design layout tool. And we can always work with other people, especially if it's a very quick volunteer effort, to make here's a Google Doc format of it and all that. A lot of the community will create additional templates, and that's fine. The Chaosium people, we take a look at it, we okay it, and then we just add it to the variety of templates available.
Very cool.
Perfect.
Hi, Thomas, are you good? Any more questions before we wrap here?
Just something that you mentioned. So, for example, for D&D, you can download their character sheets for free. Is there ever going to be a plan to make character sheets available readily, like on the site or either through Drive-Thru?
The number one place we tend to do that is on chaosium.com.
Okay. Perfect.
We have, if you're kind of curious what I mean by that, if you go to any of our other games like Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest, Pendragon, there are lots of downloadable character sheets.
Okay.
They're all free. They're in the free stuff, free resources section.
Okay.
And so, that's it. Yes, we will have for ElfQuest. We're gonna, especially character sheets. Yeah, that kind of stuff is free.
Okay. I was just thinking because that simplify playing remotely.
Great
much
question.
easier. So.
And it's an easy one to answer, fortunately.
Cool. Thank you. And now I'm done. I swear I'll shut up.
Alrighty,
I'm just putting my original ElfQuest dice. I used original ElfQuest dice to roll up your character, Thornbreak. So I'm putting them back into my original ElfQuest box.
Nice. I actually, that's the one thing in my original box of the game that I got probably in like 1986 that have been lost to time. I have all of the books and everything, but the dice, I have no idea where those went to. So, all right, we are almost at 3:30 here. So, Damson,
I just wanted to make sure
one-
there was time to thank Damson and Thornbreak for helping make this all possible. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
And thanks to all of us who joined us. Just wanted to get in my thanks.
Yeah, well, back at you, Rick. I mean, none of us would be here if it wasn't for you and kind of initiating the conversation with Richard, a few years ago. So, and like I said, that's right. Yeah, I played the first session that I have played for real with this game on Friday night with a bunch of folks, and it was a whole lot of fun and a lot easier than I was thinking it would be. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, we're so excited. We had our first game. Any other game masters, or what are we calling them now? Scroll masters. Anybody else who wants to run a game, just meet with me and I'll get you all set up. I'm very happy to do that for everybody here. There was one last real quick question. Starlight asked, oh, I lost it. Streaming the module on Twitch or YouTube. Here we go. Did you mean during gameplay? I don't know what module means.
So I know you recorded this, so it'll end up on YouTube.
I recorded this, yeah.
End up on YouTube eventually?
It will end up on YouTube, yeah. I'll share the link in the server.
So your question, Starlight, is I think already then my friend group really wants to stream the revamped ElfQuest rules and thought I'd ask just in case. So what do you mean by stream them? You want me to put
gameplay? Yeah, gameplay online is totally fine to be streamed. If I'm remembering the rules correctly, Rick.
Yeah, I mean there are people that stream their games all the time. That's fine.
Yeah, and recording your games and posting them on YouTube. That'd be great. If you do it, let us know. That we want more content. Things to share with the fans here. That would be awesome.
Totally. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we call it here? Thanks everybody for giving your time on Sunday to come learn a little bit more. And I think a lot of you guys already knew how to do some of this based on who's in the chat here. But hopefully, we got some clarity here. I know I did. And let's get some more games going.
All righty. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, my pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Happy to do it. My final comment is what I showed you. I hope I showed you there's a lot of flexibility in how it's done. As long as character creation works for your gaming group, that's all that really counts. If you just want to assign numbers or whatever else, that's fine too. If that's what the whole table wants to do, just have at it. I just showed you a typical way.
Very cool. All right. Well, we'll see you next time, everyone.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we'll see everybody in the chat. Post more questions or comments or anything. We love to hear them.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.